Let's do logarithmic and exponential functions. सबसे पहले let's start with exponential function. What is an exponential function? क्या होता है? So what is the function? पहले तो ये बताओ. What is the function? खाली हो तो notation है. fx is just the notation.
A good machine program.
Function is a mathematical operation in which every input has a defined output. इसको दो perspective में देखेंगे. One is the function perspective and the other is when we need to solve equations. पहले सबसे पहले let's understand why do we need log. जरूरत क्या होती है? The need of log. If I give you 2 to the power x is 64. What is my question right now? If I tell you to solve it, what is the question? So what is the question right now? What does this statement, what does this equation tell you? बोलो. The question is asking 2 key, what power does 2 have such that the value becomes 64? Is this the question or not? समझ आई बात? What power does 2 have such that the value is 64? नहीं, दोबारा करो. What power does 2 have such that the value is 64? If I do prime factorization of 64, do I get 2 to the power 6?
Yes.
And simply because their bases are equal, I can say that by x is a value of 6. Make sense? Zarurut nahi thi. We did not need anything. 2 to the power 6 is 128. Now what? 2 to the power x is 2 to the power 7. And which makes you say that x is equals to 7. If 2 gets a power 7, 2 into 2 into 2 into 2, if I multiply 2 with itself 7 times, I end up getting the value 128. Makes sense? Indices were enough for solving these kinds of questions.
Yes.
When we go beyond indices and when it's no more possible to do such a question with indices, that is when we use log. What is the question in this one? No, what is the question in this
What
one?
is the power of x that it becomes 100?
No, not the power of x. X itself is the x is what?
How many times will 2 multiply by x that it becomes 100?
Well done. How many times will 2 multiply by itself such that the value becomes 100? Or what power does 2 have such that the value becomes 100? यहाँ तक बात clear है नहीं है? You are absolutely right. When it takes the power 6, 64. When it takes the power 7, the answer is 128. So this makes us, Abhi, as per our current knowledge before the topic of log, this is the only thing we can predict. Agreed or not?
Yes.
Can we go beyond this till date, till our current knowledge? No, we cannot. हम नहीं जा सकते. You said the decimal में आएगा 6 point something होगा. Is that right or wrong? Now comes the introduction of log. This is where you will need log. Repeat the question. What is your question? 2 to the power what is 100? Now this is a function. You are telling me कि 2 के अंदर power में मैं ऐसी क्या चीज input करूं such that the output is 100. 2 is your base. Power is your input, which you do not know. And your output is 100. Make sense? The logic is clear. Okay, let's inverse it. दोबारा तो बोलूंगा. 2 is your base. Your power is unknown. Your input, your unknown input for now. And your output is, make sense? इसको inverse करके बताओ. What do you get when you inverse the entire function? I often give you the example. मैं washing machine की example देता हूँ. In a washing machine, the input is dry, dirty clothes. And the output is clean, often wet clothes. Is that right?
Yes.
So this is how when you reverse it, what becomes your input and what is your output?
Okay.
100 will be, for an inverse function, 100 will be my input.
And x will be output.
Yes, and the power of 2 will be my output. For an inverse function, मैं बना के भी दिखाऊंगा, don't worry. 100 will be my input. and the power which is unknown must be my output. Is that right? दोबारा 2 is my base. बना के दिखाऊंगा, don't worry. 2 is my base. I just want you to go through the concept of functions once for this one. Conceptual development, it's very necessary. All of you will be sitting for a different engineering test this year. उसमें सब चीजें मिलाता है वो, सही ना? That becomes very vital. ECAT वगैरह, whichever university you go to, ECAT, CS वगैरह के लिए, all of this will be important. Most of the universities demand entry test. So 2 to the power of x is 100. Again, 2 is your base. You do not know what your input is, but your output is 100. So for an inverse function, 100 must be your input, and the power which is unknown will be your output. Is that right? How do we write it? That is log. The same thing I've just told you, log is the inverse of exponential function. बना के भी बताऊंगा, don't worry. But once you read this, how are you supposed to read it? You will read that 2 की ऐसी क्या, 2 is the base and 100 is the input. And what are you asking? How do you read this? आप कहते हैं 2 की ऐसी क्या पावर हो के वो 100, and this function will give you the answer because this is an inverse of exponential function. How do you do that? You take out your calculator. The moment you press log, it asks you for a base and an input. Base 2 है, and the base is the same. In both cases, the base does not change. And the answer is 6.644. Obviously, it is a rounded off answer. Don't worry, I'll show you how this was made. But first, understand this log notation. Okay, what do we do for powers? हम powers के लिए ऊपर छोटा सा number लिख देते हैं. Is that what we do? Another notation for power, for example, if you wanted to write it this way, is this. I'll tell you too. These are just notations. You do not use this notation, but just letting you know. This is another notation for writing down power. This also means 2 to the power 7. दोनों में कोई फर्क नहीं है. So writing a very small 7 on top, what it depicts something, right? It shows us that 2 is multiplying by 7. ऊपर 7 की कोई physical significance है that 2. This is how often 2 is multiplying by itself. वो ऐसे भी लिखा जा सकता है. Same goes for log. Log has a significance. It is ये inverse करके मुझे power का आंसर दे रहा है. The base is the same. The base does not change. And the output is the power. Okay, I'll give you another example. Trigonometric functions. Trigonometric functions, what is our input? Sine, cos, tan. The moment I press these functions, what is my input? Angles.
Degrees,
radians or degrees. My angles are the input.
X value.
And the outputs are the ratio of sides. What is sine theta? Basic logic, opposite upon hypotenuse. So जो input हम करते हैं, and the answer that we get is the output, which is the ratio of two sides. In an exponential function, notation को भी समझो and understand the concept as well. I will show you how. If I give you this function and I ask you to make an inverse function, अब लिखने का कोई तरीका नहीं पता. Till before studying log, we do not know any other way का पावर को जब आउटपुट बनाना होगा और उसको इनपुट बनाना होगा. We do not know that. How do we do that? बात समझ आ रही है? If even I write it, पहला स्टेप जो हम लिखते हैं इनवर्स बनाने के लिए, we have no clue how to go for an inverse of an exponential function. Is this clear? Make sense? सही है. कैसे बना इसका इनवर्स? I am supposed to make y the subject of the x the subject of the formula. What is this written? अभी तो सिर्फ हमने सीखा है. We will learn many other ways of doing the same thing. 2 की ऐसी क्या पावर हो के वो y बन जाए? Can I write it the other way around? Can I do this?
change y and x.
Very good. Now I can just write that the inverse function फंक्शन के कॉन्सेप्ट से क्लियर है. आई विल टेल यू मेनी अदर वेज ऑफ अप्लाइंग लॉग, ऑफ रिमूविंग लॉग, वो सब पे हम बात करेंगे. बट दिस इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट, अ पार्ट ऑफ योर सिलेबस एज वेल. Kindly understand it in this way. It is an inverse of exponential function. इसमें हम पावर डालते हैं, we get the output. इसमें we write the output originally as an input and the answer we get is the output. Make sense? Clear है? So if I write something, what should this give me? सोच के जवाब दो. What is this saying? ये क्या है? log 264 क्या कह रहा है?
Power of power times into multiply by x.
What is the power of 2 such that it produces? Without using a calculator, can you tell me the answer? 6. Clear है नहीं है? You can use your calculators to verify. You will get 6 log base 2 64. Make sense? Clear है नहीं है? log 2 128. इसी तरह ये क्या आएगा?
7.
Very good. Without using your calculator, once you know what it means, then you can make it easy for yourself. Log lagana, hatana, everything will become very easy. Do not worry, we'll discuss all about that. But we'll understand it as an inverse of exponential function. In an exponential function, our input is the power and output is any value. In this one, that value is the input and the output is the original power of the base that we were concerned with. Because the bases can differ, so does हमें बताना पड़ता है कि किस बेस का इनवर्स फंक्शन है. Is this clear? Make sense? Getting the understanding के फंक्शन के कॉन्सेप्ट से समझ आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है? किस बेस का है, that we have to be clear with. समझ आ गई बात? Okay, now how do we apply log and very few things about log. Now observe this. Log 2, what will this be?
1.
Once you know what it means, 2 की ऐसी क्या पावर हो कि वो 2 बन जाए 1. So this is the first thing that we will study about log, कि when the base and the input are the same, the output is 1. Base और input किसका है? Reverse वाले की बात हो रही. So if you want to get a from a, you'll have to use the power 1, obviously. So keep on writing all these rules of log. We will try it. This is the first one. That when the base and the input are the same, the answer is 1. Is this clear?
Base and
Now let's use another example that we have just done. Log 2. In place of 64, can I write 2 to the power 6? I'm using this example right now.
yes.
Can I do this?
Yes.
And I know the final answer. What will be the final answer?
6.
6. So if I write it, what is the base? 2. What is my input? 2,
Power 6.
which has a power 6. Can I write, because it will give me the power, इसका आंसर पावर ही होता है ना. So why can't I just write the power of the input as a product of the output? What will be log 2? And the answer still is 6.
Yes.
Makes sense? This is the magic of log. What does it do? Because वो exponential का inverse है. So if you have a base A, input B, and an input has a power C, you can write it this way. This is the first magic of log, which we would have never imagined before log. Because इसके output actually power ही बता रहे होते हैं. So if I have any power of the input, उसको इसके साथ multiply कर देते हैं ना. It's already giving me a power. Make sense?
ठीक है. स्कूल में बस ABC कहकर तो बताते हैं इनपुट आउटपुट का.
Getting this concept now? So can I write it as log? This is the first magic of log. इसको सीखो, समझो आराम से. give there is a power of the input that can be written as a product of the output.
When there
The power of the input of a log can be written as the product of the output.
power
Make sense?
power of input can be written as
The product of the output. No need to memorize all this. These are just concepts, building words that I am guiding you about. Any problem, anything that is not clear till this point? Now let's try to do the same thing over here. यही काम हम करते हैं. Let's try to make the same inverse, but through a different way. And in this one, we will try to learn how to use log. पहले चलो, before going on the function, let's try to do the same thing over here. Let's try to take this same question. Now this is an equation. Will you agree with me if you have an equation? Any operation can be formed, can be applied to an equation, provided the fact that it is being applied on both sides.
yes.
I can multiply both of them by any value, divide both of them by any value. I can square root it. Square root is also a function, isn't
Yes.
it? I can square it, वो भी function है. So why can't I log both of them? Can I apply the function of log on both sides? With what base? Again, any base is possible, but in this question, what is the base that we are dealing with?
2.
2. So it's very smart of us to use a log with a base 2. Let's see. दोनों साइड पे इस तरह log लगाते हैं. पहले, is this clear or not? Make sense? Now, this power can be written this way. What is log 2? Getting it now? समझ आई बात? Now the same thing, if I wanted to make an inverse and I have y2 to the power x, can I apply log on both sides?
Yes.
What base should I choose?
2.
2. That is the smart choice. Log 2 is 1. So now I can write that the inverse function will be Is this clear? Make sense? The two rules of log that we have done abhi tak, try to understand them. There is nothing to memorize in this. Once you understand what the log notation means and its inverse of the exponential function, everything will become super easy for you. Do not worry. दोनों बातें clear है नहीं? जिस बेस का अननोन ढूंढने जा रहे हैं. Next is some common bases. In O levels and even after O levels, which was the most common base that you ever dealt with? A number जिसकी power बहुत frequently use की हो.
10.
Very good. 10 was standard form. What did you do? 10 to the power 2, 10 to the power 3, 10, 5, 10 to the power minus 5. So 10 is often a base, isn't it? That is called the common base of log. So if you're telling me log to the base 10, no matter what the input is, I've left input, or you're just writing log, or you're writing LG, all three mean the same thing, that it is log with the base 10. So what should be LG10? LG10 की वैल्यू क्या होनी चाहिए? 1. बिल्कुल, LG10 is 1.
पहले से याद था
खुद नहीं बता सकते. LG is what? Log to the base 10. And if you put the input as well, खाली log भी होता है. The moment you press this only log, now the calculator knows that you are dealing with the base 10. Makes sense? So log 10 की वैल्यू क्या होनी चाहिए? 1. Okay, can you tell me the value of log 100 without using the calculator? 2. सोचो ना, 10 की ऐसी क्या पावर हो के वो 100 बन जाए.
आप ऐसे बना रहे सकते हैं पावर भी डालो वो भी डालो
Base and input both.
अगर बेस भी डालो
Which one do you have?
सेक्टर हो जाएगा
एक मिनट रुक जाओ ना. Which calculator do you have?
fx 9 years I think मेरे पास एक है
ये लॉग का बटन अलग से नहीं है?
जब कल नहीं मैंने कहा था कि लॉग से पावर से डाल दी थी ना
No.
ये वाला तो यहाँ पे पावर का बटन है यहाँ पर
I'll show you. There is a different log. There are two different buttons.
बेस वाले से तो पावर
Even if you have this calculator, इसमें भी खाली लॉग का तो बटन है ना. Show me.
एक अगर बेस में से टेक्स्ट बेस डालना तो
So just the only log that you have, खाली अगर log हो, that means it has a base 10. Is this clear now? सही है? Another number that we will be dealing with is the Euler number. Differentiation में भी बहुत आएगा हमारे पास. सही है? Again, if I have a function e to the power x. Now, what is e? E is the Euler number. Euler number भी कहते हैं इसको, Euler number भी कहते हैं. But it's a value. Euler was the mathematician who developed this. कभी कभार जब आपके पावर में things keep on changing, जितने multiples उसी रेशो से जब बढ़ती रहती है, that is when you get the Euler number. The calculator has a value for it. Alpha करके you just press the E, it will give you the value 2.7182818281828. And if you are pressing this E, which is above this ln, and then you can write e to the power 1, it will give you the value 2.7182818281828. The background of Euler number you can see in many other videos as well. Abhi we are not discussing that. We are discussing कि अगर इसका inverse बनाना हो. Can you give it a try? How to make an inverse of y is equals to e to the power of x. And this number has almost infinite practical applications. Almost in every other exponential changes, these are the values that, this is the value that is often used. So e is, it's a very underrated number, but again, it's used in every other calculation. So if you want to make an inverse of this, what will you end up getting? Yes, obviously that's a smart thing to do.
So
if this is my function, what is your inverse?
log yes
Log base ex. Is that right? Again, this is also a very often used base e. So if I have log base e, I can also write it as ln, which is called the natural log. So I will not write the base as log ex, I will write it as ln x. So log base 10 is lg or just log. Log base e is ln. So what should be ln e? ln e क्या होना चाहिए?
Log E.
What ln e की value without using the calculator? ln e. So these are the two logs that we will often use. The two common bases, one एक को common base कहा जाता है, एक को natural base कहा जाता है. Is this clear or not? So log to the base e will be written as ln. So these are the four things that we have currently studied about log. सही है? Clear?